proportions in the development evolution of the world. For the first time in the last 30 years, we will document a fall in the global Human Development Index because of the effects of this pandemic. This pandemic also has multiple dimensions: the sanitary dimension, the health dimension, the socio-economic dimension, and also the effects it has in the interrelations of different physical spaces, be them local entities, be them national governments, etc. So basically, we're talking about a massive challenge to the traditional development paradigms. And this challenge has to be confronted by everybody, by the global community as a whole through the global architecture we have, by the national governments, by regions, and also at the local level by local authorities. And that's one of the purposes of this event we're putting together today. I want to really express my gratitude to the panelists that come from different regions of the world and also can share with us how they are confronting the challenges of the pandemic. And this has become very relevant, and also it has been recognized as significantly important in the architecture of South-South and triangular cooperation. South-South cooperation, as you know, traditionally was cooperation between states of the South, sharing experiences and trying to work together in building a common development path. Last year, we had a conference on South-South cooperation that took place in Buenos Aires in March of 2019. And one of the additions of this conference to the global architecture of South-South and triangular cooperation was the incorporation of other actors, including local governments, including city governments, including civil society, including the private sector. So basically, and taking advantage of the technologies we have today, technologies that allow us to put together an event like this one, we should promote more exchanges among subnational entities, because their responses many times are more relevant than the macro responses that are being put in place. We already have documented many excellent examples of how local governments respond to the challenges of the pandemic. And we're going to hear more from our distinguished panelists. Beforehand, I want to thank all of you again for your participation. And we as an office remain committed to continue supporting these exchanges. We have established our platform, South-South Galaxy, which is becoming a repository of good practices and also a tool for development partnerships. Again, with the Seoul Policy Center, we are also synthesizing more knowledge and also making it more available. And we really have to confront this global challenge with a global response, global at all levels. So I really look forward to your participation, to hearing what we are doing. I want to thank the UN Office for Disaster Risk Reduction and PAHO, the Pan American Health Organizations, that helped us put together this event. And let's hope that by sharing experiences, we can find the responses and we can do, as our Secretary General says, building back better. We need to do it, and we need to do it as fast as possible, because we don't have any time to lose if we want to achieve the 2030 agenda, and also if we want to fight commonly as a united world the drama and the crisis that results from this pandemic. Thank you very much. Now, Artemi, back to you.
Thank you very much, Jorge, for this framing of the discussion and for reminding us also of the results of the BAPA Plus 40. And it's really great to have the panel like this today, composed of a number of practitioners that are directly involved in the response. Thank you very much for joining for this discussion. I would like to hand over for the first presentation to the first speaker, and it's going to be Ms. Anan Atire. She's the Deputy Governor and Head of the Health Committee of Nablus Governorate. And she served for 15 years in this position and also as a governor before. Ms. Atire, over to you. Please unmute your mic because we cannot hear. No, we still cannot hear you. I think you are still muted. If possible, just press on the mic sign on the left corner of the screen. This way you'll be able to unmute yourself and we'll be able to hear you. Yasmin, is it possible to try to unmute from our side? No.
Maybe we just change the order.
Yes, in such case, we apologize for this technical difficulty, and I think we will be able to overcome it during the discussion. And in the meantime, I wanted to remind to all the participants that attend today's discussion that the questions can be asked at the chat room. We don't have the Q&A function, but we have the chat room where we will accept questions and will address them during the Q&A session in the end of all the presentations. With this, I think I would like to turn to Ms. Jie Ding.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and she's currently the Deputy Director of the CDC in Nanjing City in China. So over to you.
Thank you. I have a PPT and anyone to play the PPT, my PowerPoint?
Yes, we are putting it on the screen right now.
Does anyone play my PPT, my PowerPoint for me? Okay, so I just begin. Thanks UNOSSC for the invitation to share the experience in fighting against the COVID-19. And I'm Jie Ding from Nanjing Center for Disease Prevention and Control. Nanjing is the capital city of Jiangsu province with a population of more than 8 million people. Nanjing reported a total of 99 confirmed cases as of June the 6th, of which 6 were imported from people arriving from overseas. There have been no new confirmed local cases since February 18th, and the last confirmed imported case was reported on April the 2nd. All confirmed patients have recovered and discharged from the hospital. Next page. Next page. The fight against COVID-19 has achieved important and periodical achievements, and the prevention and control measures have also been normalized. At present, the regular practice intends to guard against imported cases and domestic relapse, ensure implementation of early detection, rapid handling, targeted control, and effective treatment. The management and prevention in key institutions, key places, and key populations are strengthened, and the virus testing is expanding to key groups who might possibly contact with infected persons. Other groups will also have access to nucleic acid screening. With prevention measures still in place, shopping malls, supermarkets, hotels, restaurants, and other public places are operational. The resumption of production and everyday life has been in accelerated recovery. Educational institutions are reopened.
Yes, my apologies for this. We are trying to get the audio back. We are experiencing some problems with the audio of the current speaker. Therefore, I believe we can make another attempt to probably while we are trying to fix the this issue to go to Ms. Anan Atire. Ms. Atire, can you try to unmute yourself and yes. Okay, I think we are getting the audio back.
Ms. Yedin, can you hear us?
Yes, I believe that the audio is back right now. So, so yes, Ms. J, can you try to continue your presentation, please?
Ms. Yedin, can you hear us? Maybe we should proceed with the next speaker. I will try to solve the problem with the connection.
All right, thank you very much, Yasmin, for looking into the connection issue. And I would, can we try once more with Ms. Atire? No, we still cannot hear you, and it still appears as muted at the moment. Okay, while we try to solve the audio problems that we apologize for, can I maybe invite Mr. Alessandro Atolikov to give him the floor? Alessandro, the floor is yours.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
The presentation is on the screen?
Yes, it is.
Okay. One moment. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you to the organizer for having provided me with this important opportunity for sharing experiences and learning from each other. I'm strongly confident that each development process starts from the knowledge and from understanding what others do. So, let's start from the geographic framework. I suppose everybody knows where Italy is located, less where Basilicata Region and province of Potenza are. Let's talk about administrative issues. In the picture on the right side, you can see that Italy is subdivided into other subnational entities, the regions. Italy counts 20 regions. Then each region is substructured into provinces. Italy counts 108 provinces. After that, we have the cities, the municipalities. Italy counts more than 80,000 municipalities. In this slide, you can see two particular regions. On the left side, Lombardy, which is the epicenter of the COVID-19 outbreak, the region where the infection initiated in its spreading in Italy. On the right side, you can see the Basilicata region, and it gives the possibility, the picture of where is Basilicata located. And on the table on the right side, you can see the speed of the COVID-19 propagation from starting of the National Civil Protection Coordination to the first recorded case in Basilicata region. These are the main numbers of the Basilicata region. Basilicata region is subdivided into two provinces, and these are the main numbers in terms of residents and other issues. Before dealing with the COVID-19 crisis management, some words need to be spent on the healthcare and civil protection disaster management systems. The slides briefly summarize how the healthcare system is currently governed and managed in Italy. Starting from 2001, after constitutional reform, he had the following modification. The healthcare from the national coordination passed to a decentralized one and to a sort of a federalism according to the principle of subsidiarity. The regions acquired a direct responsibility for healthcare management, also financial, and the central government maintained the general addresses, the fundamental health principles by means of the framework of laws and guidelines were maintained by the national government, whereas the regions defined the detailed regulation. This is the main framework, institutional framework in which we are located, which we are dealing with the crisis management. So we have two components, the sanitary components and the civil protection components that in the case of pandemic were activated both together and working together for defining the strategy to be adopted. Just as a final consideration about this is that the two crisis management were working together all over the crisis period. So in this way, we have a different kind of action to be be put in place, but coordinated by the same coordination management structure. This slide shows the first action undertaken by the task force of the Regional Sanitary Crisis Management Unit. Due to the limited capacity of the sanitary structures in dealing with possible huge numbers, the strategy included specific action for limiting the access to hospitals, only to patients that severely contracted the infection and to rely to the decentralized healthcare systems, including family doctors, and for all the other cases. Also, the minor infection cases, including quarantine and mild symptoms, were initially supposed to be treated at home. So we have the following measures: an operating protocol for identifying suitable paths to correctly manage the access to hospital for suspected cases. Then we have the activation of a triage procedures, the activation of a regional toll-free number for being contacted by citizens for speeding the communication, the definition of operational procedures. Then after this, that we have the setting up of a special COVID-19 special local healthcare units aimed at supporting the decentralized healthcare system and family doctors, because they were at the beginning of the crisis, they were very pressed by the citizen, by the population to act in their support. And the launch of an application, an app for helping monitoring patients in at-home isolation. This is this slide shows the distribution, the final distribution of the hospital capacity for COVID-19 treatment, and these are the main numbers that we experienced during the crisis. This slide shows some figures about the crisis management. They are compared with other Italian regions and Italy. In this slide, note that Lombardy, for example, this is the total confirmed case in Italy. Lombardy, which is the most affected region, the epicenter of the infection, is the region where all the most severe cases were recorded during the infection. And you can see in this slide, the Basilicata ranges in the very low position compared to the other regions. This is due to a combination of factors that we are going to see. This is the same slide as before, but normalized to total residents for each region. This is the slide. In this slide, the main trends of the infection paths are illustrated. For better understanding the information provided regarding the lockdowns and the unlocking phases, note that this, also in this case, the national government provided for the official acts for limiting, permitting movements, and the list of general activities permitted or stopped over the national territory, defining also the sanction and penalties for not respecting impositions. Based on that, regions can adopt their own specific acts that could provide for more restriction or better specification of the activities permitted or forbidden. And generally, Basilicata region was more restrictive than the national government, both in the lockdowns and in the reopenings. So in this, we have 4 main phases. The first lockdown on the 9th of March, the restriction initially limited to the most affected areas in the north of Italy were extended to all the national territory. The restriction included many of the common measures, including social and physical isolation, movement, limitation of the movement of people all around the territories, the stop of the many of not fundamental activities, the push for implementing wide, smart and remote working procedures, especially in public administration, and other measures. Then we had the other lockdown where all the activities were closed, except the basic activity for life. And we had this long period of lockdown that ranged until the 4th of May, where we had the first unlocking phase. The first unlocking phase that divided in 2 phases. The first one on the beginning of May, and the second at the second part of the same month, in which all the activities were progressively being reopened. And then starting from the 3rd of June, this week, we have the unlock phase number 3, where almost all the activities are reopened. And so now we are living in this reopening period that most of the economic actions have been again permitted. This slide shows the overall intensive care capacity for the public health system during the crisis management. The graph on the right side shows the initial capacity of each region and the increase in the capacity acquired during time. The limited initial capacity that we had at the beginning, because we were the first nation after China, after the Eastern world, that we suffered this crisis. So we had a surprise effect that at the beginning. So we were not really prepared for this kind of numbers. So the limited initial capacity has been overcome with the strategy of the flattening the infection curve, schematically reported on the left side.
2 minutes remaining.
Yeah. Then these are other slides, numbers referring to the crisis management. I would point the attention on these are some monitoring control of the action that we put in place in order to understand how the progress were made in terms of emergency crisis management. On the left side, we have the general, the daily COVID contagion index that is was referred for the national strategies for the unlocking, for the lockings and the lockdowns and the openings. On the right side, we have this dashboard that we proposed as a experimental work for evaluating the remission of the infection and the emergency management response quality of the response at the regional level. This is experimental work, is still in progress. I hope that we will produce some updates for this summer. And as regards, this is the main role of the province. The province of Potenza is a local authority ranging from the region, between the regions and the cities, the municipalities. We had different kind of role of coordination, especially supporting, especially of assistance and coordination of the little cities that we have. And we provide for the information flow regarding the measures that from the region, from the national government were adopted to the territories. And so a different kind, many kind of activities that also a free telephone number for helping the citizen in assisting them in getting the right information how to manage the situation. And the last 3 slides are related to the socio-economic programs that we are in for the future. I divided it into 3 main blocks of activity: the short term, the medium term, and the long-term activities. In the short term, we have, of course, we are going to prepare for a new outbreak, because we expect that in the autumn we can have another the COVID-19 will come back. I hope not, but we expect this. And so in order to avoid the surprise effect we had at the beginning, we are preparing also for this. So we are relaunching. We are preparing. We are relaunching also some economic activities. We are preparing for the new school years, and we are accelerating the smart working for the public administration, which is the future of our governance or our local authorities activity. And then in the medium term, we have some measures that have been already put in place by the region, Basilicata region, in order to overcome this economic failure that some people are suffering. I mean, individuals, professional, autonomous workers. There are some measures that, but in terms of incentives or of contributes and of occasional support, economic support for overcoming this period. And then this is an example of the preparation that we are performing for the new possible outbreak that we will have at the beginning of the autumn. And this is a new hospital that has been built for enlarging of 300 extra beds, the Basilicata region health capacity for treatment of COVID possible patients. And then these are the long-term investments that we are currently in. There is a huge plan in discussion at the national level in these days, and this huge socio-economic plan will foresee the investment of some hundreds of billions of euros in many activities, in many fields of activities, going from the business, infrastructure, tourism, public administration. So we have a great opportunity now to renovate our local administration, our governance system, and in this way, in this plan, I hope and I am confident that also the transversal cooperation will provide for a very, very good occasion of improving our and other works. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alessandro. And I think the presentation also shows very well the decentralized nature of the response and the way different regions are affected in different ways, but also the policies need to be taken at the local level. This, I think, highlights further the importance of the discussion that we have today. I can see that some of the participants are raising their hand. Unfortunately, with the problems that we are experiencing with the audio today, we will not be able to experiment with giving you the floor. And I will ask you to kindly write down your questions in the chat box. In the meantime, I would like to attempt to get back to Ms. Jie for the presentation.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, begin from this page. The fighting against COVID-19 has achieved important and periodical achievements, and the prevention and control measures have also been normalized. At present, the regular practice intends to guard against imported cases and domestic relapse, ensure implementation of early detection, rapid handling, targeted control, and effective treatment. The management and prevention in key institutions, key places, and key populations are strengthened, and the virus testing is expanding to key groups who might possibly contact with infected persons. Other groups will also have access to nucleic acid screening. With prevention measures still in place, shopping malls, supermarkets, hotels, restaurants, and other public places are operational. Next page. The resumption of production and everyday life has been in accelerated recovery. Educational institutions are reopened in an orderly manner. At the same time, we continue to guide the public on the knowledge of infectious disease prevention and control. Next page, please. Next page. As to the containment experience, since the early days of the epidemic, the city government has communicated regularly with citizens and issued policies, notices, and guidelines regarding COVID-19, responding to public concerns. Physical distancing measures were put in place to reduce transmission risk. Joint prevention and control mechanism has achieved coordination with high efficiency, and society-wide efforts has been made. The Nanjing government's strategy for fighting novel coronavirus has centered on the principle of early detection, early reporting, early isolation, and early treatment. Community participation has assisted the local government agencies in handling situations more efficiently. Screening measures were imposed in fever clinics, residential communities, or main city entrance, and cases were detected and identified in a timely manner. Laboratory testing played a very important role in finding and managing symptomatic or asymptomatic cases. Cases were reported through the online direct reporting system of infectious disease. Next page, please. Any confirmed or suspected COVID-19 cases were subject to thorough contact tracing to identify close contacts. Close contacts were placed in hotels for 14 days central quarantine and were subject to medical observation and nucleic acid testing. Next, suspected COVID-19 cases. as well as asymptomatic carriers were immediately sent with dedicated ambulance to designated medical center for treatment. Once discharged, patients remained under medical observation for 14 days and followed up for another 14 days. We have established such a disease management modality covering the whole period from patient identification to their discharge. Next, please. Next page, please. Nanjing has been actively propelling economic growth in addition to adopting the national level policies. The city government has announced a 318 million yuan economic plan to stimulate the local economy. The plan will boost consumer spending with vouchers and coupons being given out for catering, sports, books, and information and for travel. To further stimulate local economy, Nanjing City launched a series of activities to improve consumer confidence and promote the growth of the consumption market and consuming upgrade, which included 6 invitations, inviting people to attend the Government Festival, the Shopping Festival, the Qinghua Lantern Festival, and the flower shows, and to go out for an outing and exercise their bodies. The citizens enhanced the interest in consuming and enjoy their lives through these activities. COVID-19 pandemic once again shows the importance of the global cooperation, and all countries must unite and work together to fight against this disease. Nanjing municipal government has provided support to Brunei and donated anti-epidemic materials, including disposable surgical masks, disposable inspection gloves, and medical protective clothing. Nanjing has also provided medical supplies to South Korea city Tianjin to fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. A batch of supplies has also been donated to Thomas Rabe, his family, the city of Heidelberg, and the University Hospital, Heidelberg. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this presentation, Ms. Jia. I think it was very interesting, and thank you very much for bringing this cooperation dimension, and cooperation that is so multi-directional in a way. And it's one of our objectives for today, to discuss how cities can play a more active role in this sort of cooperation. And of course, for us in the UNDP Seoul Policy Center, the city of Nanjing is a very familiar place, with one of my colleagues going there quite regularly before COVID in the context of the Partnership for Action on Green Economy. So thanks a lot once again. Now I would like to try to, we will have a little bit of change, and I apologize for this in the order of the speakers, but we have the mayor of the city of Banjul, Rohim Malik Low, joining us right now. So may I try to go to Madam Low. Honorable Mayor, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Let me first and foremost allow me to thank the organizers for inviting me to this, to be part of this platform. Good afternoon from the Gambia. I am honored and privileged to be part of this platform. Mr. Chairperson, let me first and foremost introduce the demography of my city. I am the Lord Mayor of Banjul, and this is the capital city of the Gambia. My city is a very small city though, but very important in the sense that it hosts the seat of power, meaning that most of the government offices is in my city. Almost 90% of the offices are in my city. And this is where we have the institutions like the police station, the White House, that is the State House. This is where we have the intelligence office, the parliament office, etc. And Banjul is a port city. It means, meaning that it's a commercial city, and that give it the privilege to have about 300,000 to 400,000 people coming in and out of the city, even though we only have about 30,000 inhabitants. Mr. Chairperson, having gone through the questions, allow me to put the first two questions in the context of my city, Banjul. As I said, the capital city of the Gambia. Though a small city, it has played a very vital role in addressing COVID-19. The city of Banjul was quick to set up a well-structured, coordinated local plan in readiness for an effective response to health risks and the expected impacts that we foreseen. These include, Mr. Chairperson, my council set up a special COVID-19 response team made up of civil society organizations, council members, business community, and the local health authority to oversee and supervise our responses. Mr. Chairperson, I think everybody will bear in mind or will concur with me that COVID-19 came at a time when it was not expected at all. The special response team, which serves as an apex body and has supervisory and executive role, in turn set up a resource mobilization team. The team used various ways to mobilize resources, but the key issue was to appeal to citizens over television to donate to the special fund. This was very successful. And these funds were used to buy rice, food, to buy oil and other things, just to complement the protocol that the WHO said and our health minister here, stay at home. We will all understand that the developing countries are very different from the developed countries. In the Gambia is a very poor country. So if you ask people to stay at home, you need to provide food and for them at least to be able to stay at home. A health task force to expedite service delivery in the hospitals and clinics. These services include advice on how to locally make face covers and to help in the health advocacy, such as use of sanitizers, hand washing, and social distancing. A risk and crisis communication and community engagement that encourage compliance with measures using the media and traditional communicators. This was also done. Caravans were also used to go around the city to reach out to the people on safety measures during this crucial period. And I think the mayor was also on the forefront to make sure that sensitization was done properly. Under the health task force, Mr. Chairperson, the City Council embarked upon a fumigation exercise of the main market in the city, public buildings, mosques, churches, schools, and all drains and sewage facilities in the city. So this was thanks to UNDP also. They have funded this, and this is where the civil society organization go out together with the mayor to make sure that schools, churches were all fumigated. A survey of health frontline workers was made, and additional support staff was also recruited to deal with the pandemic. Hand washing stations were put in strategic areas of the city to encourage hand washing. Mr. Chairperson, a food bank was established to help the poor and needy as a result of the lockdown. Women and children who were more vulnerable were given priority in this area. Measures were also put in place to limit passengers using public transport. As a result of the loss of earnings for transport owners, the price of fuel was also reduced. Schools, mosques, and churches were closed to avoid the spread of the virus. Students received tuitions online, as well as broadcasts on radio and television for those that don't have access to the internet and IT gadgets. Council staff was encouraged to work from home where visible. This cost council almost 60% in loss. revenue since collections declined as a result of lack of personnel. Physical distancing was put in place at the markets, but it also backfired as revenue was lost during the ongoing lockdown. And a lot of vendors, most of whom are women, were also seriously affected. Mr. Chairperson, let me just quickly roll as said, and the potential of South-South and triangular cooperation in exchanging practices, preparedness of the cities to document and share solutions. Mr. Chairperson, let me state that COVID-19 has come, as I said earlier, at a time when we were unprepared for any immediate response. And looking at it in the context of the developing countries, I think a lot of things were expected to come from developed countries. South-South cooperation presents an opportunity for health cooperation. In our search for solution to COVID-19, there is need for a South-South cooperation initiative in health and related areas. Therefore, a regional health initiative, collective research and development efforts in medicine should be the top priority for now and the future. Medical discoveries, which are important for the survival of people, need to be shared widely and its access made available to all, especially to the most vulnerable countries and communities. And this, when I said vulnerable countries, of course, one of the most vulnerable countries is my country, the Gambia, and one of the most vulnerable city, of course, is my city, Banjul. There is no need to adapt trade and industrial policies. The financial subsidies being put at the disposal in the West and industrialized nations to sustain businesses during the pandemic and justify as emergency support in the face of exceptional circumstances will nonetheless have a negative impact on the international trading system.
2 minutes remaining.
I beg your pardon?
2 minutes remaining.
Thank you. Ensuring food supply in times of crisis. The pandemic has also brought to the forefront the feasibility needed by countries in procuring and distributing food, especially at times of crisis. In response to COVID-19, the countries of the South need to strengthen the strategy partnership in the heart of South-South cooperation and build solidarity Triangular cooperation is linked to and can be promoted and monitored as a means of implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. It is a relevant and strategic modality for all types of development cooperation. Through triangular cooperation, partners involved share knowledge, learn together, facilitate capacity development, cooperate and jointly create solutions to development challenges. Combining efforts based on complementary knowledge, as happens in triangular cooperation, is key to achieving good results and to take the 2030 agenda forward. Triangular cooperation presents us with greater political attention and high-level backing, both domestically and internationally. Mr. Chairperson, to help triangular cooperation achieve its full potential, the partners involved should capture and communicate better its value added based on their respective goals as well as the overall development objective. I will end by saying greater visibility and awareness can discard the means on triangular cooperation. More systematically, collection and analysis of data and other information on existing projects, including their results, will support this objective. On that note, Mr. Chairperson, I wish to thank you for your undivided attention and wish that all efforts to eradicate this pandemic will soon be realized. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much for this intervention, Honorable Mayor. I think it was very impressive to hear about the experience of the city of Banjul and very inclusive governance of the response that was put together. Of course, thank you also very much for excellent suggestions in relation to South-South and triangular cooperation. One of the things that I wanted to note is that we actually plan to organize a special discussion on the regional approaches and the role of the regional organizations in the future. And thank you very much for making the point about this, as well as all the suggestions related to triangular cooperation. Now, I would like to once again invite Ms. Anan Atire. The floor is now yours.
Thanks, Mr. Artemi. I apologize because of technology. I'm so pleased to join this session and to join practices also, to share experiences. Talking about the role of local administration and the resilient city in combating COVID-19, I'd like to invite you all to Palestine, where more than 5 million Palestinians living in the state of Palestine struggling to contain and limit the spread of COVID-19 virus. Around 3 million reside in West Bank and 2 million in Gaza. Why I just mentioned this? Just because I want to tell you all how much is the life of Palestinians is difficult since most of the Palestinian people are in daily struggle to achieve sovereign, independent, and democratic state free from Israeli occupation. Gaza is part of my land and my country, but it's totally isolated and suffering from very critical situation. West Bank, with the 11 governorate, facing more than 700 total closures, according to OCHA Accord. What is happening and how we managed to combat COVID-19 in Nablus Governorate, my city, my beautiful city, with 400,000 citizens distributed over the city and 58 villages and 4 highly populated refugee camps. Refugee camps with very difficult situation and which make very difficult for us as local administration and governor office to manage how to combat COVID-19. So this city is based in the northern side of Palestine, and also it's an economic center. There are many thousands of students and workers, and also there are more 70 barriers or closure around the city, which make it horrible for our health team to work efficiently. Of course, as the rest of the world, Palestine has hit by the newly discovered COVID-19. However, Palestine has adopted restricted early measures, starting with the president declaring the state of emergency by the 5th of March. To facilitate the government operation in different fields, with the focus, of course, on health and security, which assured high effectiveness in combating and containing the pandemic. Palestine is working closely, of course, and this is one of the added value with the WHO to ensure continuing to support the implementation of the global humanitarian response to COVID-19. We got the virus from 2 different sources. The first one was tourism. Now it is fully under control, especially during the travel restriction worldwide. The second one, which is the most difficult, is the Palestinian employment in Israel. We have hundreds of thousands of workers going on daily basis to Israel, and you know that Israel is having a very high percentage of cases. So this is an open door for the Palestinian, and we are not controlling it because we cannot control our borders. Generally, a very strict curfew was imposed in the state of Palestine, resulting in closing most of the businesses and all of the schools, universities, social centers, as well as canceling all of the gathering for more than 2 months to contain COVID-19 and slow the transmission, of course, while keeping some aspects like pharmacies, bakeries, and some groceries. How we managed to do the structure, and what is the structure of making bodies, decision-making bodies in Palestine? Of course, there is two levels. The government level, which is the National Emergency Committee, the committee that plans and issues regulation for health and security at the national level. The second one, which I'd like to focus on, is the local emergency committees, which are led by governors. So through my office, I manage from the first moment to initiate and establish an operating room to confront the COVID-19. I'd like to say that the state of Palestine has one of the lowest rates of virus spread and almost no community transmission. Just to give you some figures, we have just in the country 654 cases. Recovered cases is 595. We just have 5 death cases and we have 90 active cases. We managed, after a very difficult procedure and efforts, to make around 36,780 tests. Home quarantine, and this is very important because most of the workers were put in home quarantine. There were more than 60,000 in home quarantine. But in Nablus Governorate, the place I represent, there are just 7 cases. Why? It is because the early measures that we managed to do. Because there were an opportunity for my city to be involved with EU and the UNDRR program that helped to make Nablus city more resilient to disaster, which can be seen as combination of resilience accumulated through the process urbanization and planning on one hand, and the result of specific action to reduce disaster risk by various actors on the other hand, making into consideration that we believe that everyone has a role to play. But still, pandemic scenario like COVID-19 was not seen like one of the risks to be considered. So there is no local or national plan for confronting COVID-19. Of course, as I said, that the state of emergency had been launched on the 5th of March. At the same night, the Governorate Office activated the High Local Emergency Committee and activated Crisis Management Cell, which led all emergency containment procedures and measures, supported by evidence-based communication campaign to encourage our citizens to protect themselves and follow government guidance to contain the pandemic and mitigate the impact, and continue to be guided by the local health cluster strategic preparedness and response plan. What we did and what are our achievements? 6 main sectors work under this cell: health committee, security committee, media, economic committee, infrastructure, volunteer. We brought all of those young people, and a humanitarian aid committee. Also, how to communicate with people. I said that the country is segregated because the Israeli occupation put a lot of barriers. So we obliged to make local emergency committee. We formed it in every village, district, camp, and neighborhood to ensure a quick and direct communication between the committee and the community in everywhere and at all levels. I'm talking about individuals and institutions, NGOs, private sector, and everything. Based on the emergency plan, Nablus Governorate Office worked 24 hours a day, and there were an emergency room hotline has been activated to speed up emergency response, and also to support and help during the lockdown, and to calm down people who were in panic and increase the public health awareness about the disease, preventing measures to watch signs and symptoms, and directing infected people during the outbreak. Of course, with all of this, it is not enough because we need to do some health measures. And because of the financial crisis that our government is facing, and because of all of the restrictions of the Israeli and all of the revenues, so we found ourselves in a health sector which is under-equipped and facing a shortage in resources. Governor Office also, and through the crisis management cell, immediately start to use available local resources. I'm talking about private sector, civil society, international organization, and we managed to establish 5 health centers during 1 week. 1 for triage and testing, 1 is a laboratory because we were obliged to send all of the swabs from the north area to Ramallah, which is the center of Palestine. It is like 1 to 2 hours. Health quarantine hotel where the close contact cases and highly suspected people and travelers from endemic countries were quarantined. Isolation center for asymptomatic or cases with mild symptoms were isolated and treated. Of course, also, we were in need to a specialized hospital. In 1 week, with the help of the community, we managed to establish a hospital with 32 beds and with ICU beds and ventilators. All these centers were established in the city within 1 week, and of course with the support and fund with local society, and handed directly to the Ministry of Health to overcome this shortage of resources. During the lockdown, it was essential to maintain basic public services, utilities such as electricity, water supply, waste management, especially the medical and solid waste from COVID-19 centers. Nablus municipality and local municipalities and councils in the villages, popular committees in refugee camps were supported from the crisis management and from the operating room. We provided all of these services while, of course, preserving team and worker safety. Strengthen and empower the infrastructure works in health facilities and other main institutions and main roads. About the socio-economic, what we have done. Of course, the crisis cell endorsed the security plan and all measure relevant committee started screening and selecting in-need families to receive assistance, either food, cash money, psychological support, personal hygiene kits, non-food items, and other things. This was the most important thing because the city were locked down for more than 2 months. All relevant committees were engaged in producing media and advocacy material to raise awareness at all levels and sectors for more social engagement. We established a psychological support team from psychologists and specialists to support vulnerable people, and they had a hotline so everyone can call the team and be assured that support by the team can be presented. The economic committee inspected the market during the lockdown. I know that we just have bakeries and pharmacists and also some groceries, but also to keep the price and the control of the price, the industrial committee and the economic country did a great job. The nature of the close relationship between neighbors, relatives, families, and friends in our society and build trust between people and the leadership helps in monitoring people who are in home quarantine. It was the most difficult thing that to control home quarantine people and to limit their movement. And this was a motive that we build very good social relation with the civil society and with the population. In our health centers, we did a lot of health measures, examining and swabbing every suspected cases, even asymptomatic, home quarantine for people who have risk factors for COVID-19, health quarantine for highly suspected cases, cases isolated, triage system in all health facilities that help protect the hospitals and the healthcare workers and the health system. And this was the most good achievement. Sustainability of basic health services such as vaccination, chronic disease treatment, and other health services also continued as normal. Sustainable personal protective equipment, because by the beginning of the pandemic, there were a shortage of PPEs and most of the things and swabs, but we managed to encourage one of our factories to produce the PPEs and we overcome this challenge. Taking into consideration that Palestine is not controlling borders and entrances, which made it difficult at different level, workers and the people who had been stuck was one of also of the challenges faces the operating room. Of course, as I said, there were shortage of swabs and HON here become the cooperation between the countries, Jordan, Egypt, and other countries who helped us to send swabs because there were just a few tests. We did few tests at the beginning of the pandemic, but then we managed to overcome this through all of the relation with our and cooperation with our either international organization or also at the country level. The current military incursion by Israel forces and settlers attacks causing high risk, of course, for spread of infection, taking into consideration that the Israeli occupation state had more than 18,000 COVID-19 cases and more than 300 deaths. So with all of these incursions, with all of those settlers attacking the places, also we have this kind of challenge. As I said before, Palestinian workers working in Israel market and illegal settlement made our control and preventive measures very fragile. And the containment and the suppression of the virus is a challengeable issue. More than 80% of the cases that have been infected are infected from the workers inside Israel. For the last things that I'd like to say about the cooperation that I'm so proud of with the South-South and triangular countries. We overcome, as I said, the challenges like the shortage of PPEs and the limited number of swabs for testing by donation from local and international organizations and countries. We illustrate very strong coordination with the local and international organizations such as in coordination mechanism, OCHA, were all the time with us at the emergency room. Quick response to the emergency health needs World Vision, they helped us a lot. For rapid response, of course, EU were donating and sharing with us most of the experiences. Coordination to bring back the stuck Palestinian citizen, either in Jordan, Egypt, or other European countries. So the cooperation was very successful, and we managed to bring hundreds of citizens from these countries, and we are working on the other issues. If I'm going to talk about what our citizens who are in the diaspora, what they did a lot of things, and they cooperate in their countries, either in the United States of America, Europe, in some Arab countries. They were working closely with the health center. They put all of their efforts, especially the health team, the doctors, nurses, and they volunteered in the health centers. Of course, some of our citizens in diaspora also, they made a kitchen, and they were distributed food and meals for nurses, for the front line of health apparatus in all of the countries they had a relation of. Of course, I can say that Palestinian people receive a lot of donation, equipment, PPEs, but the most important thing is the experiences and the lessons we learned from each other. We conduct through the Emergency Crisis Committee many seminars. We had one seminar with one of Italy doctors inside hospitals. So most of the intensivists came, and they shared the experiences with the intensivist doctors working in ICU, and they learned a lot from them. Of course, we also held some seminars from one of the biggest academic college here, which is An-Najah University, where 7 specialists on virology, epidemiology, also preventive medicine, came also and present a seminar for the policymaker, for the politician, and also for the economic team who were so angry because we locked down the country for more than 2 months. By the end of my presentation, I'd like to thank you a lot, but also I'd like to say that now we're going to face more difficulties because of the Israeli annexation of the West Bank, the plan of annexation of the West Bank and our lands. So our efforts and our national efforts to combat COVID-19 will become more difficult, but in spite of all of the challenges, we are preparing ourselves for the second wave. Thank you a lot. I'm waiting for any questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Anatira. And indeed, we have a lot of questions coming. I'm not sure whether we will be able to addressed most of them during the Q&A session, but to all the participants that are contributing the questions right now, some good questions came to all the speakers. We will make sure that the speakers receive these questions, and we'll be able to get back to you in case we don't have time to do so during the Q&A. And last but not least, it's my pleasure to invite Ms. Laurence Quark. She's the General Secretary of the Global Social Economy Forum since 2016. So she's based here in Seoul, but represents a large network. So Laurence, over to you.
Thank you very much, Artemi. Let me express my sincere thanks and gratitude to the organizers, UNDP and UN Office for South-South Cooperation, to organize this very important webinar on cities and local administration as actors in responding to COVID-19 and the role of South-South and triangular cooperation. My name is Laurence Quark, and I'm the General Secretary of the Global Social Economy Forum based here in Seoul. So I would like to share first of all a little bit about how Seoul is countermeasuring the crisis of COVID-19. Actually, since the first confirmed case discovered in South Korea on January 19, as of today, June 10, in South Korea, we have only 11,902 confirmed cases with 276 deaths. In Seoul, which is the capital city of South Korea, with 10 million population, we have 1,029 confirmed cases, out of which 666 are discharged and 4 deaths only. So we can say that relatively, Seoul has managed quite well to prevent COVID-19 outbreak and fighting to avoid mass infection in a city like Seoul with 10 million populations. But as like not only successful experience of containing health crisis, but we have to think about very negative and severe socio-economic consequences that are affecting livelihood of so many people, and especially most vulnerable and marginalized citizens in the city. So I would like to share a little bit more about socio-economic measures taken not only by Seoul, but by few cities which belong to the GSEF and who are working very closely with social solidarity economic enterprise and organizations. Because as I think, as many specialists have already projected, because of the very strict confinement measures in more than 100 countries, actually that more than 2.2 billion workers are unable to work. And according to the ILO estimate, there will be more than 350 million jobs will be lost, which will contribute to the growing unemployment, new poverty and inequality in all over the world. And I think the Korea, as well as Seoul city, is not an exception. So Seoul, actually metropolitan government has already taken several socio-economic measures. In line with Korean national government, they have dispersed a nationwide emergency support for all Korean citizens. And Seoul also has done to the very vulnerable citizens and mostly affected small medium enterprise in the city, but providing this emergency support with the local currency, which can be used only in local areas to boost local economy. And this has brought some of very positive impact in last 2 months. And also Seoul support with the paid sick leave plan to the daily employees, part-time workers, temporary employees, as well as one-man self-employees when they are hospitalized or when they receive medical checkup. And next initiative, which is quite interesting, is the selected plan for social business. And Seoul Metropolitan Government supports the survival funds for the self-employed and small businesses with the amount of 700,000 Korean wons for 2 months, and actually about 410,000 small medium enterprise, including social solidarity economic enterprise, have benefited. And another initiative is the step retention support for COVID affected so small medium enterprise, including social solidarity economic enterprise. There's small and medium enterprise with less than 50 employees. If employees had to take involuntary unpaid leaves due to COVID-19, then they can benefit from this retention plan. I would like to mention the last initiative, which is not the least, but it is directed to the art and cultural sector, which is most affected by the COVID-19. Actually, that Seoul is providing 500 performing art groups and corporate up to with 10 million Korean wons from this month. Next slide, please. So as I said, not only Seoul Metropolitan Government, but there are other cities who are also taking similar public policies and measures to support social solidarity economic enterprise. First of all, the city of Montreal has implemented financial aid and accompanying measures targeted at the social solidarity economy sector, such as the reduction of the mandatory contribution to the social economy development fund from 20% to 10%, and providing physiological counseling programs, crisis management, and human resource training. And social solidarity sector is also represented in the Committee for Economic Recovery and included in the economic recovery plan currently being prepared. For instance, in France, Nouvelle-Aquitaine region, like many other local government of France, took steps to alleviate short-term cash flow problems met by social solidarity economy entities, in particular small ones employing less than 50 employees, through various loans and support funds. The region is also supporting the sector in a multi-stakeholder approach through the organization of a weekly social solidarity economy crisis unit, and in the long term, the preparation of a recovery plan towards an ecological, social, economic, and cultural transition. Next, please. And not only in those developed countries, but in Senegal, city of Dakar has been supporting social solidarity economy organizations through the rescheduling of repaying period through municipal development and solidarity funds, and incubator for the promotion of employment through micro enterprise financial labor, and through facilitating their access to public procurement opportunities. Liverpool City also is taking several initiatives. First, which is called Kindred, which connects, supports, and harnesses local entrepreneurialism for social goods, actively engaging local individuals and communities who have ideas to generate community wealth, but who have not yet established as a social trading organization. But with the support to the long-term transfer of assets, for example, unused council buildings or land, which are provided from the local authorities, with the support for the long-term benefit that the thriving social trading organization sector can have on the social economy for the Liverpool City region. And they have launched a campaign called SCR Cares, with the urgent grants and crowdfunding campaigns to raise more than £1 million to support community and voluntary organizations. Next. So I would say that why those cities and local governments are supporting social solidarity economic organizations, as I said, generally social solidarity economic enterprise and organizations are working with most deprived, marginalized citizens of the city, responding to the very urgent social and public needs. So why this is so important and why it's so effective to support social solidarity economy in the fight against COVID-19 is that we are aligned through those public policies and measures developed by cities and local government, enabling citizens to become a very active manager of local everyday living interest in each other and expand those efforts into a more sustainable local civic economy, which is very important in terms of redressing and really fighting against the negative impact of socio-economic impact of COVID-19. Next. So I would say that importance and effectiveness of the social solidarity economy to fight against COVID-19 has to be included in terms of social economy new deals to build back better with the three focus: build a more stronger social safety net, especially targeting for the most vulnerable and poor people, and to create a daily economic safety net, and to prevent average citizen from falling into the poverty. So SSA social solidarity economy actors from becoming main victims of COVID-19 affected group emerged to an influential common public policy builders, and they are actually calling for more city support for step retention instead of temporary suspension or unpaid involuntary leave, and also calling for a creation of specialized counseling system for social solidarity economic actors to come with very proactive public policies which can be developed by cities and national government. Next. Next slide. And I would like to say a few words in terms of some good practices already developed by many cities and local government who are working with social solidarity economic organizations, and especially targeting that we are trying to develop public policies which could meet the objective of sustainable development goals, not only in terms of sustainable development goal 3 to ensure good health and well-being, but more in correlated manner to end poverty, SDG 1, and to create more decent jobs for SDG 8, and to reduce inequality, SDG 10, and also to build more sustainable and human-centered city and community, SDG 11. For instance, one example is that during the first week of June 1st to 5th of this year, that 42 local government with the leadership of Seoul Metropolitan Government has taken a summit, Cities Against COVID-19 Global Summit, under the theme of Together We Stand. And they have just initiated Association City Alliance Against Pandemic. And they are actually actively exchanging ideas, public policies, and practices for better cooperation among local government regarding not only about how to overcome health crisis caused by the COVID-19, but also to exchange about good practice on climate and environment, education, and welfare of vulnerable groups, and sustainable and resilient cities and communities. And they have adopted Seoul statement, which I have enclosed in this PowerPoint. I also would like to mention our webinar series that we organize jointly with the City of Mexico, who is hosting our Global Social Economy Forum next year, on how social solidarity economic enterprise and organizations are responding to the COVID-19 in terms of challenges and strategies, and also their good practices to ensure decent works and employment, and how we could actually propose a social, economic, environmental transition in post-COVID-19 era. And we are currently developing a very small solidarity action with the KOICA and other Korean social solidarity economic entities to support very informal social solidarity economic enterprise in developing countries, mostly in Africa and in South Asian countries, to preserve the minimum productive activity of those enterprises. And I think this kind of examples could be spread through especially the support of UN Office for South-South Cooperation, as well as through other cities and local government. I would like to conclude that we can only overcome this global crisis if we work together through solidarity and intercooperation. I would like to thank very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Laurence, for this presentation, and it was a great conclusion, I believe. I hope that the attendees of this webinar will allow us a few additional minutes for this webinar in order to address some of the good questions that came through the chat. I will have to be very selective, but as I promised, we will be sending your questions directly to the panelists. Some of them started responding to you through the chat. Some of them will be able to do so later. And there is a good question that just came from Rodrigo Hernandez. It's to all the panelists, and it's related to the fact that within the next months, cooperation will be critical to reactivate the local economy. And the question is, what would be, in your opinion, the most requested fields for cooperation to focus on? As South-South cooperation will be limited from the point of view of budget, and the funding needs to be very strategically allocated. A few questions that also came that are directly related to some of the speakers. For example, to Alessandro, there is a question that you mentioned the opportunity to revise the local governance, and could you expound on this and explain what are the aspects of the local governance that could be reformed? There are a lot of questions to Ms. Ding in relation to the details of what kind of cooperation does the city of Nanjing have with Korean and European cities, whether it has any South-South projects with African cities, and also one technical question in relation to the standard protocol used for the treatment of the patients, and whether the protocol was different from the ones used in other cities of China. There are questions for the Honorable Mayor of Banjul, and for example, one from the participant of Liberia, Mr. Reeves. He is asking with the measures being put in place by the city of Banjul, what is the case profile in Gambia currently, and whether the curve is being flattened. But there's another question on whether Gambia is using the experience of its neighbor Senegal that has showed some resilience in the response, and also has some sort of interesting practices such as cheap testing, the regional research center such as Institut Pasteur being located in Senegal, and the things like this that are available next door. I can see that Ms. Anan Atira was able to engage with some of the speakers directly, but there is the question on the collaboration between the city of Nablus, the Nablus Governorate, and the NGOs. And one question to Laurence, if you could provide further information about this local currency that you mentioned and how does it work. So I will give maybe 1 minute to, or approximately 1 minute to each speaker to address the questions. Can we start with Alessandro?
Yes. What is the main innovation that we are trying to perform, taking into account that the COVID pandemic has put us in a critical situation. I mean, in terms of work, public work, of relationship with the entities, with the regional, national, all the stakeholders that we have all around our activity. So we want to take the occasion, but we moved from the working presence to the smart working in a very, very short time, because we were prepared to we worked a lot in the last period, in the last years, to improve this aspect of our working life. So the idea is to take this occasion for improving the governance, and also the national government is doing some progresses also on this. In the national plan, we have ideas on implementing this kind of activity. So we think about the bureaucratization, document dematerialization, simplification of procedures, transparencies, anti-corruption measures, accountability, improving accountability, community engagement. If we use the digital solution, IT solution, we can work in improving these kind of things. So reducing digital divide by adopting information technology solution that helps in connecting, in interconnecting, and reducing the distance. So we have, like in this case, we are participating in an international event, but mostly working from home. So these kind of things, if we have to change our mind, we have to change our mood of working, and we can have a lot of benefits also, not only for the work itself, but also for the environment, because we reduce the CO2 pollution, we production, we decrease the energy, we optimize energy consumption, resource management, we improve ecological footprint. So there are many benefits that can be used also for improving our action in a sort of circular way. So this is what we are doing now. This is what in which we are fully engaged in this period of our institutional life. And I think that this is a good occasion also to share this experience also in this kind of cooperation, that we are full supportive of this kind of cooperation, this kind of exchanges.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Alessandro. And can we now hear from the Honorable Mayor of the city of Banjul?
Thank you very much.
My apologies once again for the technical problems that we are facing with the audio. So while we are trying to reconnect, maybe we could go to, let's say, to Laurence for her response.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry. Okay, thank you very much, Ermeti. First of all, I think what it means, the local currency, is that both national government and Seoul metropolitan government, when they paid very short-term emergency cash relief to the citizens, they have paid this with local currency or the card, which can be used only in their localities, to nearby small commercial or small medium enterprise, and not using, for instance, internet orders for the big conglomerate companies. So the purpose is that those short-term cash support should be used actually to revitalize local economy, and especially benefiting mutually small, medium commerce and enterprise. And it did produce a very good impact actually to revive of those small and very localized commerce and enterprise. So I think it was a beginning of very good public policy which was initiated. What is interesting is that actually that Social Solidarity Economic Organization has proposed to initiate universal basic income before the COVID-19 crisis. But there was a very high proportion of citizens who were against to it. But when we are not prepared, actually COVID-19 crisis came to our society. And then all of a sudden, all political parties as well as all citizens, quite a big majority were in favor of this. So very interestingly that already, which was debated and prepared public policies, was able to be implemented immediately with quite well prepared measures, which could contribute to the boosting of local economy. And I think in the same way, I think I would like to respond to the questions raised by UNDP, I think Paraguay, about the case, how actually city of Dhaka was able to do that policies. I would say that in the same way, I think last year that we were asked by the city of Dakar and also National Union of Local Government of Senegal to provide a training program on how to develop public policies to support social socio-economic organizations, especially transform informal sectors of majority of women and youth who are engaged in economic activities to the social economic enterprise. And thanks to God, actually that new minister who was appointed the week before our training has joined us. So it was a very interesting consultation between national, local government with the presence of many social economic entities, including those intermediary structures who are supporting the development of social enterprise. Since then, actually, they have been working very actively to co-create public policies and measures which could really help those informal sectors to become more formalized and decent jobs. And in those process, actually, they have established a national network of local government working for the promotion of social solidarity economy where the COVID-19 has took place. That's how actually that they had already quite big amount of already ideas and proposals and measures that are needed to put in place, and they could immediately respond to the urgent need of those sectors. So I would say that actually, of course, it didn't happen just one day after the COVID-19 crisis. Of course, I think most of those countries and local governments, nobody was prepared actually to have this crisis. But meantime, actually, there had been ongoing consultations and discussions with many actors, especially from those economic and social actors, where the local governments are already engaged in drafting or in co-creating of public policies. And this had helped them a lot to better respond to this crisis. And I think this could be one area of South-South triangular cooperation. I think for me, a most important area of cooperation for the coming months would be really to exchange good practices and good experience developed by many government, and especially by many cities and local government, on how to preserve employment, and especially how to preserve employment for the most poor and vulnerable peoples, because this is going to be the biggest challenge that we have to face for the coming years. So I think this could be one area that we could focus in terms of cooperation from South-South triangular cooperation. Thank you very much.
Very much, Laurence. It was a very good suggestion. And I apologize, but we unfortunately run out of time really badly already. But I would like all speakers to briefly answer some of the questions. So could we go to Ms. Jia Ding right now?
Okay, thank you. And as to the further information on the content and the nature of the cooperation with Korea and the European cities, and Tianjin is a friendly city with Nanjing. Nanjing contributed 2,000 protective gowns, 2,000 isolation gowns, and 50,000 masks, and COVID-19 artificial intelligence CT diagnosis systems, which has been applied in hospitals in Wuhan. These two cities will exchange experience, expand communication, and strengthen scientific and technological cooperation, and combat against the epidemic together. And as to the European cooperation, and in the early April, Dr. Thomas Rabe, the descendant of John Rabe, who is the author of the diaries of John Rabe, in the University Hospital Heidelberg asked urgently for help because of the lack of anti-epidemic materials. Over 600 vials of designated medicine, 200 protective gowns, and 30,000 masks were donated to Mr. Rabe and his family and the city of Heidelberg and the University Hospital Heidelberg from Nanjing City. And the never-ending friendship continued for over 80 years and turned a new chapter in the fighting against the epidemic. And to some, the goal is to build a community of common health and for mankind. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this very interesting information. And now, Ms. Anan Atire.
Thanks again. I believe that investing more in health is the most important thing that I'd like to recommend for more cooperation south to south. Because I believe that some people were in favor of their economy rather than their health and our health and the human right and the human souls and health. Also, decentralization is very important, and I believe supporting local authorities, cities, and administration to illustrate decentralization and more good practices and data management also is one of the most important sectors that I believe that we can work on it. Supporting civil society organizations who played a very good role and giving them more support to continue in this issue. Because I think if we empower these civil society organizations, especially the people who are working on development, charitable one, also we will find them in the future while we're dealing with this kind of the crisis. Also, employees and small employees are much better than employer and merchants. So I believe we can also support countries and governments to create funds to support small SMEs and give the chance for the employees and the young people to create their own work. So these four sectors, I believe, is very important, taking into consideration that the universities, research centers, especially health research centers also need to be focused on. So I believe this is my introduction.
Thank you very much. Now, Jorge, do you have any final remarks? All right, thank you. Since we are really running out of time, I would like to now hand over to Stefan Klingebill, the director of UNDP Seoul Policy Center, for the wrap-up.
Thank you so much, Artemi. That was really fascinating, this following this rich discussion, great presentations, and a very lively chat debate. Let me just conclude with 6 main points, and really I'm running through those 6 points based on the discussion. I think first of all, what I found confirms the relevance of the subnational level, and especially when it comes to urban areas and cities. I mean, we all know that today the majority of people, more than 4 billion people, are living in urban areas. So this is really a highly relevant topic. My second point, cities and urban areas are facing a number of challenges. We see it right now when it comes to COVID-19. We know it from climate change, but cities are also part of finding solutions. And I think what we were able to listen today to identify a number of solutions cities are providing. Nablus, Banjul, Nanjing. I think all of you were providing examples how you are managing those socioeconomic recovery strategies, for example, health situation, etc. So challenges and solutions are really something what is very much related to urban areas. So to have a focus not just on the national level, but also on urban areas is something what is crucial. I found it also very interesting, that's my third point, that cities and urban areas are increasingly active in transnational cooperation or cross-border cooperation. I mean, just what Ms. Singh was explaining, city of Nanjing, what you are doing, what the global social economic forum is doing, are part of international networks. I think this is really something what is very important. My fourth point is, and this is coming back to what Jorge Chediek was already mentioning at the beginning, that this kind of cooperation, transnational cooperation, is some kind of triangular cooperation. And for me, triangular cooperation means different types of countries are involved, exactly what we are seeing today. Or Italy as an OECD country, we have countries from the global south, so different types of countries. We have different levels. We all understand that the national level is important, the regional level, the global level, but of course the subnational level has a very crucial role to play. And last but not least, when it comes to our respective levels, we know that governments, municipalities are important, but at the same time, we have also beyond the public sphere, very important actors, private sector, academia, civil society organizations, etc. And if we take this together, this kind of, let's say, innovative mixture of actors, this is triangular cooperation to a very large extent. My fifth point is, I think this kind of interaction between actors on the subnational level, I think actors like the UN Office for South-South Cooperation, South-South Galaxy, but also our UNDP Center in Seoul, at least to some extent we can continue to facilitate this kind of dialogue. I mean, this kind of matchmaking is not always easy, so to some extent we can provide some kind of input, moderate discussions, etc. Last but not least, let me really thank the Honorable Mayor of Banjul, Madame Ding, Madame Annan, Madame Lawrence, and Mr. Alessandro. I think that was really great. But let me also thank our great co-host, the UN Office for South-South Cooperation, so Jorge Chediek. Thank you so much. We did already a couple of other webinars. I think this is another great example of successful cooperation. And let me also thank Shams and other colleagues from UN Office for South-South Cooperation for this kind of great collaboration. Looking forward to next steps, to next activities. That's great. Over to you again, Artemi. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stefan. And the majority of the attendees today showed remarkable resilience despite the fact that we went beyond time. And so I would like to thank once again everyone, all the speakers from today's discussion. I think it was a really interesting discussion, and all the attendees. And I would also like to remind you that at the website that Shams just shared at the chat box, there will be the recording, but also the brief summary of today's discussion where you can refer to for the main points that were covered today. Once again, thank you very much, and stay tuned for the next discussions that we are planning to organize. Have a good day.
Thank you.